Hi loves! I took some time off and played around with cake stencils. The result was this two-tiered cake decorated with royal icing and the PME Airbrush System. Today I'm going to show you how I made each of these tiers. Let's begin. For the royal icing method, these are the tools and ingredients I used. To make the royal icing, I need egg white and powdered sugar, some gel-based food coloring, I used Poppy by Rainbow Dust, some vegetable fat and a glove or a brush, a fondant smoother and an offset spatula, and of course a cake stencil. I'm using a damask design long cake stencil. To make the royal icing, I just add the egg white and powdered sugar to my stand mixer and stir the whole thing until I get a really thick, perfect consistency. If you're concerned about using uncooked egg white, what you could do is add 2 tablespoons of water to the egg white with about 30 grams of sugar. Put it all over a water bath and continue stirring until the sugar is completely dissolved, and then proceed from where I've started, which is to add the powdered sugar until you get this really thick consistency, which in my opinion resembles melted marshmallow. So the consistency, it's really important that it's not runny, because if it turns out runny, then you're not obviously going to get the beautiful design that you're trying to get with your cake stencil. I've added some gel-based food coloring to this, so this was Poppy by Rainbow Dust. It's a beautiful pinkish red. And before I apply it to my cake directly, I'm going to test it on a piece of fondant first. So I apply it directly on top of the cake stencil, which lays above the fondant, and add a generous amount. And just the goal is to see if I have the right texture, if everything feels perfect, if I can remove the stencil without a problem, and just to make sure it's not runny. So this looks good and I'm ready to get started. There are many methods to apply a cake stencil to a cake. I've seen it being done with some tape, I've seen it being done with some nails, but I'm pretty sure the nail method is illegal in many countries since the nail's not supposed to touch the food that's going to be served. So instead of doing those methods, I'm applying a very thin coat of vegetable fat to the fondant directly and then pressing the stencil onto the fondant. It adheres really well, but just to make sure that there's no gaps, I go over it with a fondant smoother and brush it all on. And then I apply a pretty generous amount of the royal icing on top of the stencil. Now you can see that the consistency looks like buttercream, and you could in fact use buttercream for this as well. The advantage of royal icing, however, is that it dries pretty quickly, so I don't need to wait forever before I apply the same thing to the other side. It takes about an hour or two to harden, and then I can do the same thing on the opposite side of the cake. And then, very gently, I remove the cake stencil. So, in my opinion, this is perfect. What do you guys think? Let me know by commenting below. I'd love to hear your opinion. Now, let's do the airbrush method. So here are the tools and ingredients that I need for the airbrush method. I'm going to need some vegetable fat, a brush, a fondant smoother, and an airbrush system. I'm using the PME Airbrush System, and this is the first time I'm using it. I'm really loving it. Of course, I'm going to need some airbrush food coloring, and I'm going to use the same stencil as before. So here you see the airbrush and the compressor up close. The compressor is much smaller than many other similar tools that I've seen, which is a huge benefit. The only downside to that is that when you turn it on, it shakes away from your working area. I test the airbrush before I apply it directly to my stencil, and then I'm ready to go. There's one thing I did differently in this case compared to the royal icing method. Here I applied the vegetable fat to the cake stencil instead of the entire fondant covered cake. And then I have a go with my airbrush system. This was the first time I used this tool and I was totally in love with it. It was so easy to use. And then very gently I remove the cake stencil. Let me take you up close so you see the difference between the two methods. So here's the airbrush method. You can see that I have the perfect contours, the details are perfect. With the royal icing method, you have a really beautiful three-dimensional design on it as well. So this is what the cakes look like stacked on top of each other. What do you guys think? Which method do you prefer and which one would you like to use? Let me know by commenting below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.